Hello, and welcome back. I can't believe this is the final episode of season one for Box Office Girl, an audience booked by, and what a season it's been. I've been so thrilled with all the people that have given their time so generously. And today, another generous participant. I'm thrilled, delighted, humbled to welcome Shreya Sen Handley. Shreya, how lovely to see
Hello.
you. Oh,
Yes, and you. Thank you for asking me on.
I'm so welcome. I'm just looking down now at this list of accolades. I don't know where to
Acclaimed.
begin, so I'll start from the top. Two books. Well, when I say two books, I have those two
Ooh,
books
you
right
got them
here
both.
that you've
Thank you.
already published. Memoirs of My Body, which is kind of going to form the foundation of this chat, but as
Sure.
usual, we'll go off in all sorts of directions. And Strange, which is a collection of short stories, which I read recently and thoroughly enjoyed. You're also
Great, thank you.
a columnist for international media, National Geographic, Guardian, CNN, to name
Mhm.
just a few, a creative writing teacher, which is where we met.
Which is how we
Last,
met.
it
Yes.
is last year, just before the lockdown. We were lucky to get that in.
Gosh, yes.
But
Yes.
even more exciting than that, you are the first Asian woman to have penned an opera.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they tell me. That's what the media tells me. I'll make a distinction there. I think I'm the first South Asian woman.
Okay.
So I don't really know. The media knows. I don't know. And I think an opera on that scale, so an international opera, but it's amazing because I've never done anything like it before. They read my National Geographic articles and they liked the rhythm and they liked the color. And that's why they approached me. Because before that, I'd never written poetry. I'd never written a play. Um,
That's
and
crazy, isn't it? When you think about it. Wow.
it was wow, and it came to a defunct email account that I barely used, and I thought, "Ooh, is this a scam?"
Mm.
But I did, I checked up on them being a journalist, and it all worked out. And we're going to have this huge premiere, 100 plus performers, three choirs, a live orchestra. It'll go on the road in the UK, and of course, because of the pandemic, all of this will happen next year instead of last year as it was meant to.
Yeah, yeah. So did you write it as on your own or was it a collective?
I co-wrote it with five others, amongst whom we have a knight. And he's much awarded, Olivier Awards and a Knight of the British Empire. He's our director too, Sir David Pountney. And then there are a diverse range of wonderful voices writing with me. Each of them with the opera is called Migrations. So the
Okay.
stories are around migrations, the good and bad, the traumatic, the troubling, but also the comic. Mine is a dark comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also a lot of dancing in mine. So there's Bollywood dancing, there's Asian doctors in the NHS. It's actually based in 1968 when Powell was going on about rivers of blood. So there's a very serious core to it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been the most fabulous journey, and I've done more work with them since, a series of films. I've possibly working with them on another opera, and I've had my first play since then, premiere yesterday in London at an award-winning theatre.
I'm
So
bowled over. I can't even think. You're so busy. You must meet yourself coming back. But well done on the play. I hope. How has that gone? I understand you weren't able to be there, which is a shame. But
I know it's the pandemic again, though, isn't
mm,
it? It does make traveling and children. I've got two and a dog. All this becomes harder to manage because of the
oh,
situation. I hope to be there,
mhm.
probably at the last show rather than the first. Yes, so it's got 8 shows, which is amazing through this week. It's only a short play. It's 15 minutes. It's called Quiet.
Mhm.
It's about a woman wrestling with some revelations during the pandemic, and it's based here in Nottingham. Uh,
Ah,
so
so maybe joining it for the last performance when they've really found their feet on the stage,
yes,
you know,
yes,
is a better idea than the first night sometimes, but good luck to that. And just coming back briefly to the opera, I mean, how timely is that in the light of all that we know now about the Windrush generation and having to look at our own history as a country and our cultural responsibility to so many other people. You know, it's very timely, and I wish you huge success.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure you don't need it because you're just a firecracker when it comes to creativity. But
I don't know, but thank you. I mean, it's just, I think it's just that I've always said yes to interesting new projects. I've not said, oh, this is the thing I do and I do it well and I'll stick to it. So I've taken a few risks, and most of the time it's paid off. I think that's all there is to my range, let's say. So.
Yes, but it takes a clever person to recognize an opportunity when it's presented to them, and also to have the courage sometimes to say yes. And talking of courage, let's talk a little bit about this book. I know it was written a while ago.
Published in 2017. So,
but yes, published in 2017, but it would have started its journey before then, quite a while before then, I think, wouldn't it?
The writing journey started in 2013. Obviously, the book itself goes far beyond that, way back to, I think I started with being 6 years old and sort of stumbling upon the whole concept of sexuality for the first time and not understanding it either. And then, so 6 years old, and I'm now 47, so a long time.
You're a baby. You're a baby. You're in good company here.
I think we're all just getting better and better, so that's no problem at all. But yeah, so in terms of the span of time, and of course it's not just my memoir in that sense, it's kind of universal. It's about my story, but it's every woman's story, or I'd like to think so. A lot of women have, written back to me to say so. So yeah, that is why it goes way, way back, because it also looks at history, how women were treated in various eras. And so it's journalism meets memoir meets, I think, every woman's story. Because of course I take different parts of the body with each chapter, or a different bodily process, and deal with that. And that takes me all over the world and back in history and forward in time in terms of how I hope it will be someday. And so on. Yeah,
you do, and it made me laugh. It made me made me kind of, because you don't hold back.
Yeah,
but in a positive way, in a female empowering way, and always I think at the forefront of what you are writing is that embodiment of female empowerment and a woman's right to choose. And it's not, I think even now, really, are we even really having this conversation in the 21st century? This is still quite a new concept for many women.
It is. It's bizarre how our voices are continuously suppressed, even to this day. To some extent, obviously, it's the patriarchy, you might say. It's the whole system. It's not just men. It's not just women. It's all of us together somehow not managing to break out enough out of that mold. And yeah, it is, I hope, empowering. It was even for me to write those columns, which actually started its life on CNN. So that was empowering. And as I went along, I think I pushed the envelope and the boundaries more and more and more till I wrote that. And trust me, it wasn't easy to write because, as you say, I've sort of really laid it all bare, no holds barred. But the trick for me was then to just write as if I was writing for myself.
Yeah.
And I think that too worked because it felt like a woman's inner voice to many other women. Like you yourself might be thinking about your various, your bodily history. And we don't talk about it enough, not in the East, not in the West. I was surprised by how little British women broach these subjects as well.
Well, you know how reserved we can be over here, but I think we are getting better. I think it stems from maybe the same from many cultures, we're trapped between traditionalism and our
Yes.
own thoughts on what we would want to do with our lives and our bodies and our
Yes.
right to have that say. I mean,
Yeah.
that conversation could go on literally forever, couldn't it? But
True.
yeah, it's now just moving on, because you wrote a column recently
Mhm.
in the Chronicle, was it? Was it the
Yes,
Indian
I
Chronicle?
write a column that goes out in various big Indian newspapers. So it's the Deccan Chronicle and the Asian Age, which also, it goes beyond India. It had offices here in London and so on. So yeah, I write for them, the same column that goes out into various newspapers. And I think you read the one about aging. Is that
Yeah.
the one you mean?
It is, because I think having read that last year, and then I read this quite recently, and there is a particular story in here which I found very interesting and kind of looped back to what you were also saying in Memoirs. And it was about a woman of a certain age who had
I know
signed up
which one.
to a dating agency for married women. And we all know that this happens. It's not like we're not naive. We realize that we may rub shoulders with friends who do these things, and we have no idea that it's going on, but it certainly goes on. Um, but out of that, it is that woman of a certain age who is still has desires and wants to be desired, which you talk a lot about in Memoirs. It's
Yeah.
understanding ourselves in a way that not being afraid to share ourselves in the physical sense. But that's all well and good, and we're all looking for a situation where we might be able to rekindle that first passion of a
Yeah.
new relationship. But as we grow older, it changes, doesn't it?
Oh
Our,
yes.
our
Oh yes. Yeah.
wants change. Maybe we still have the desires, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak kind of
Yes, yes.
scenario. So I found that interesting in your column, because you do talk about the aging process. And
Yeah. I think as we grow older, we're still very much about our bodies in many ways.
mm,
But now it's other aspects. Unfortunately, it should be about its health throughout anyway. But health takes us center stage, and
mm,
how it's maybe wearing down, and what we can do to carry on doing some of the things we love. I mean, when I talk about sexuality in Memoirs of My Body as well, and Strange Stories, female empowerment, part of it is sexuality, but a lot of it is also about that kind of emotional health, mental health, physical health, and that sexuality, our control over our own bodies and our own sexuality is very much a part of that. So, the story about the married woman who signed up, she's in two minds as well.
mm,
We all have very conflicting feelings about everything. And I'm not either endorsing or encouraging or any of these things.
no,
What I'm saying is that it's very much an individual choice.
yeah,
And we should all be allowed to make those individual choices, keeping in mind who matters to us, who else
mm,
we're dealing with, who we might be hurting. But it really shouldn't be about the outside world telling us, any of us, especially women, because we've been told all our lives what we should do with ourselves, our bodies, our
mm,
destiny. So, in that sense, I think, though I have moved away in some respects in terms of what I write,
mm,
but that's also partly because I like exploring range, but
mm,
also because I see it as an organic whole. It's about
mm.
us as women and what we have the right to do.
Mm.
And that encompass, it sort of encapsulates everything that we
It
are.
does, it does, and because where the memoirs start, as you say, right back into the first awakening, if you like,
Mm,
without even really understanding what it is
yeah,
that you're being awakened
yeah,
to your first sexual encounter, um, and then moving for a woman, it's about exploring that, and then it becomes about motherhood, and suddenly breasts take on a whole new meaning. They
yes,
go from
yes,
being this object of sexuality to a means to keep a child alive, you know. I mean, I will share, I know we are recording, but I can remember thinking after my first child, I was at the doctor's because you know, you have to go back and have checkups, and I remember saying to the doctor, I don't feel sexual, you know, I feel maternal. And because your hormones change.
Yes.
And then they change again as you grow older. And so the parts of your body become more important in a way to look after.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And it is a continuous journey, which is why I think the fact that I'm writing about different things doesn't actually change my sort of the core of my concern.
Yeah.
Which continues to be about not just women, definitely about women, but marginalized people and diverse voices and the voices that aren't getting heard enough. So I think that still is.
Yes, absolutely, because it's all very well being enlightened and educated and having access to material that will further your journey, but there will always be those who need a helping hand along the way to discover for themselves and don't necessarily have that access. So I think you make a very good point there. And you know, even in your coming back to your column, I did like this line actually. I did pick up on this, is weather beaten and worldly wise, you know, and it's but also you also kind of looked at it in terms of from the point of view of the pandemic, an enforced early aging, which I think we can all relate to, having been shut off from the world.
Yeah. It's amazing how, because I have family in India, I have friends all over the world in Corfu. We all do because of the virtual world we now inhabit, the online world. Everyone has been talking about how they feel so much older. And we have to find the positives in that. It's very hard to find any positives in this pandemic. But I guess for many of us, it has helped us sharpen our focus on what really matters to us. Maybe when we come out of this, and fingers crossed we do, and go back to some semblance of what we knew as normal, we can cut down on the trappings, on the frivolities, on the things that was making our planet sick.
Yeah.
And so maybe this has been a lesson, maybe a good lesson, a very hard lesson, a very unfortunate lesson. But sorry, I think I digress.
No, not at all. I was, because in a way, I think it's not I think literature has looked at this many times over the years, how we see the planet as a feminine entity, and we can relate that in terms of ourselves and our own bodies, that if it's mistreated, then it's going to break down. I mean, the planet is certainly getting older, and if we don't take this opportunity to understand the new journey forwards, then I don't know what it would take. If not a world pandemic, then what would it take? But you also you also talked about there is a certain freedom, I think, that comes with age. Which I think we all begin to appreciate it, even as things are falling, things dropping off and things falling out. But we there is a freedom that comes with aging. I think we care less about what other people think.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I think so for me, the journey from my columns on CNN IBN to the HarperCollins book to the columns that I write now, which I think they call Off the Beaten Track, which they decided on themselves. But I'm just hoping it's not that off the beaten track, that in fact we all feel this way, that we are going to, we're going to make our own rules, whether it's because of our age, whether it's because we've lived through this pandemic, because, or our health, or the world we live in, which has all changed. With regard to age, there is certainly so much more freedom. As I said earlier, I'm 47 now, and I don't feel I have to do the things I used to do. I mean, if I don't feel like making small talk, I think I'm quite okay with maybe just giving that person a thumbs up and moving on. If I don't feel like wearing certain kinds of constricting undergarments, I will not wear them. I don't care where I'm going or who's going to go. And those might just be the superficial parts of it, but internally we're also feeling, well, yeah, I mean, our bodies aren't what they used to be. We're having to pay a lot more attention to pills, popping pills, taking care of this, taking care of that, eating better, cutting out dessert, which has been a disaster for me. But it's just, but at the same time, that in itself pushes you down avenues where you're exploring other things and other ideas, other ways of eating, cooking, living, thinking. And yeah, it's freedom in so many different ways. Freedom to say, you know what, I've been lucky. I've not done an office job in years now. But for those of them, of people stuck in office jobs, to say, because of the combination of the pandemic and age, to say, I don't want to work like that anymore. I don't want to go back into offices. I want to do this. So change is even for the worse, as age might be considered change for the worse, could be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there is a sense, isn't there, of shedding a certain skin that you've outgrown and leaving it behind, and making, and also there's nothing like the aging process to focus the mind literally on a deadline. With we talk about deadlines in writing. Well, there is that ultimate deadline, and if you're not going to do it now, none of us know how much time we actually do have. And I think that brings a certain bravado into your life.
Absolutely.
Reclaiming the self, isn't it? And thinking, you know what, I'm just going to be damned and I'm going to do it. And to hell with what anybody thinks about that, because we're all on this journey. It's evolution, we're changing, aging and renewing, I think, at each step of the way. And it's about embracing that new self whilst, acknowledging the other parts of you that you have left behind. Like you say, you're not the same person who wrote this book, but it was at a point in your life that we can all recognize in our own.
I'm not the same person, and yet I am as well. Like we all are. The core of who you are, the core of the beliefs you expressed and held dear, I think they're still all the same. It's just that as we go along, the sort of the outer bit of it, external manifestations change. And maybe our concerns are more weighed towards one thing than another. You were talking about renewal, and what I've felt in my most recent column as well is that if they're going to call this next step the second childhood, our second childhood, let's embrace that as well. Instead of second childhood in terms of being weak and silly and being told what to do because we're getting old and we're not capable of looking after ourselves anymore, which granted is another 30 years or more down the line, maybe more. But the second childhood in terms of that freedom, how about we recapture that freedom totally and forget about the rules that other people make for us?
Absolutely. I could not agree more. I feel quite rebellious, and I'm hanging on to that for dear life, because I think in the end it's that kind of energy that would carry people through. Hold on to that inner child, find that child and hold on to them for dear life. Absolutely. So my goodness, it just flashes by. It always amazes me. What's next for you, because you've done so much already. What could possibly be on the cards for you now?
Next is my third book with HarperCollins, and that's it's a memoir of sorts. It's a travel memoir, but it does again touch upon various things like coming out of an abusive marriage, and finding that self-belief to do it, and sort of traveling and finding yourself, but also then learning to enjoy travel with a partner, finding out what kind of partner you want to go traveling with in life, as on trips themselves, and traveling with family and the mayhem that comes with it and the magic as well, and traveling with pets and so on and so forth. So it's based to some extent on things I've already written. And but it's a sort of, it's a renewed telling of those stories that I've had in my repertoire for a very long time. So
but
yes,
from maybe a new perspective.
Yes, yes, a little bit of a new perspective, but a lot of the stories are, you know, they're well known. They're stories that have people have found very entertaining. So I've stuck to some of that style, certainly. And yeah, but there are lots of additional elements. It's not a case of yeah, it's a book. It's a book as opposed to columns, in the way that Memoirs of My Body is a book opposed to the original columns.
And
so,
does it have a title yet, or is it still?
Yes, it's called Handle with Care, which is which refers to various things, including, you know, you get the stamp on your baggage, handle with care. I'm Shreya Sen Handley, and one of the jokes my friends made when I married Mr. Handley was Handley with care. And then also the fact that our life and our journeys are things to be considered with care and given attention to. Our traveling makes us to such a degree who we are, how much we know, how aware we are. So travel is not just something from a luxury magazine. Travel is who we are. Even if we're traveling from our homes to town one day and just going into Old Market Square and buying a piece of cheese, whatever we're doing, that's travel as well.
We're part of the journey. Yeah.
So it's about journeys, and it's about life.
Oh, well, did you say back at the beginning that you were possibly looking at writing more for opera as well?
There is, I think, there's a second collaboration on the cards, but obviously everything, as you know, has been pushed back in this pandemic. And having caught the theatre bug, obviously I'd like to do more. I've done a little bit of film writing as well. I've, of course, written for television because I used to be a television journalist. So I'm always up for anything. I'm happy to write and illustrate for just anything that comes along. That piques my interest, obviously. And, you know, it feels like a worthwhile project as well.
Well, I think it's, you know, as long as we remain interested in life, life will remain interested in us. I think it's about energy, isn't it? And recognizing sometimes not so much an open door, but a little crack in the window pane will do sometimes. But it's recognizing that light and grabbing it and saying,
and going for it.
Yes, I will do that. Absolutely. Shreya, what a great interview. Thank you so much for bringing your energy and your imagination and your creativity and really covering so much in a short space of time. I hope, you know, you would maybe join us again for further down the line and we can catch up with you and see what you're doing. I think, you know, that would be wonderful. But as usual, that time has just flitted away.
It does.
And it's crazy, you know, we only seem to just get started and then it's over. But I just wanted to round off the season by giving my thanks to all the guests who have joined me. My thanks to Taker, to Hazel, to Val, to Paul Bearded Badger Handley, he's another Handley. And to Anne Goodwin, who joined me last time. And to say that we will be back for season 2, I'm very happy to say. Hopefully in a couple of weeks' time. It might have to be a little bit longer than that, but if you hit the subscribe button, then you won't miss an episode anyway. But I will be joined for the first episode of season 2 with Drew Gummerson, who wrote a brilliant book called 7 Nights at the Flamingo Hotel. And believe you me, if you thought Memoirs was what shall we say, a fruity number, you need to buckle up for this particular ride, because this guy knows what he's doing, you know, and it was a great read. But that's it for now. My thanks again, Shreya.
Thank you for asking.
You're very welcome. And as I say, hit the subscribe button and we'll see you again very soon. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.